Okay, so Jack decides he's going back up the beanstalk to get more. Because that's what some people like. They want more. More and more and more and more and more. That's just the way some people are. He climbs up the beanstalk, goes back up to the castle. Nobody around. He goes in and he searches the whole place. There's no loose eggs on the ground anymore. None. So now he has to climb up and get one. Get one off the table. Gets up on the table. Up onto the table where the giant keeps his stuff. He's not finding stuff on the floor anymore. He is going up to the table. He's breaking into a house for starters. Going up onto the table, grabbing another egg, and running away. Sure enough, he climbs up, finds the egg. He sees the goose. Big goose. Big goose. It lays the golden eggs. He also finds the harp that plays magic music. Okay? And he finds all these things, and he grabs an egg, goes back downstairs, down off the table, down the beanstalk, takes it to his mama. You found another one? Yeah, I found it. Yeah. Yeah, so now they got money for a while. For a while, that's the deal. Just for a little while, they have money. A little bit of money. Now they're getting used to it. They need the money now because they're living a better lifestyle. Oh, Jack, I ran into your father the other day. And then I backed up the cart and ran over him again. They're living a little better than they used to. And that takes a little bit more money. Got to keep that wagon rolling, if you know what I mean. So, Jack is going, sneaking back up, and stealing from the giant on a regular basis now. Climbing up that beanstalk and stealing from the giant. Finally, he just decides, this is too much work. All this stealing, all this taking other people's stuff. So, Jack climbs up there and he says, I'm just going to take the goose and all the money I can carry and get out of here. So, Jack goes up and he climbs up onto the table. Nobody's around. And he grabs the goose and then he thinks, you know what? The harp's cool. The harp talks. The harp plays music anytime you want. You just say, like, play me some Thunderstruck. And it starts playing. And there you go. It's like, wow. Can you get any better than that? I don't think so. Anyway, so he decides he's going to steal the magic harp and the goose. And he's going down. And as soon as he grabs the harp, it's like an alarm going off. It's like, I'm being stolen! Help me, master! Help me! He's stealing me! Anyway, Jack grabs these things and he's dragging the harp down the hallway. Master, he's chipping my paint! Ah! And the goose is like, honk, 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 calling for help. Right? They're dragging him down, and the goose is trying to get away, and the harp is just complaining the whole way, and he's dragging it out the door. Shove it under the door. Get it under the door. And the giant this finally wakes up from his little nap or whatever he's gone doing. I think gone out for a smoke. I don't know. Anyway, giant comes running back. And he's like, what's going on? Man, what's happening? Anyway, giant is chasing Jack. Jack is dragging the harp and the goose and trying to get them both down there as quickly as he can because he wants to have magic music all the time at his whim and he wants to have money coming out of the goose's butt all the time. So, takes the goose and he takes the harp and he goes climbing down this beanstalk as quick as he can. Giant didn't even know this thing's there, right? Like, looks like another plant to me. But, I mean, it is growing out of a cloud, so it could be a little noticeable. Anyway, Giant is coming down the hill, or coming down the vine, right? Coming after Jack. And Jack's calling to his mom, Mom, cut the thing down. Start chopping now, man. Get the axe. She's like, I don't need an axe. I got a chainsaw. Bought it with one of those golden eggs you brought me. And she's cutting the down thing, man. The giant's coming down behind Jack, and the goose is protesting, and the harp is screaming for help, and the giant is coming down, and Jack gets to the bottom. He says, "Give me that thing." And they chop down the beanstalk, and the giant falls and hits the ground, dead. Who's that, Jack? That's the giant. Who's the giant, Jack? It's the guy who owns the goose that laid the golden eggs, and the harp that plays the magic music. Golden eggs, harp, music. Didn't you find those eggs? No, I stole them. Now help me bury the body. And she's like, Jack, this doesn't sound right. Jack, something's wrong with this story. We shouldn't be killing people, taking their stuff, and burying them in the backyard. And she's like, we got the goose now. Shut up and help me bury this guy. What are you going to do? So sure enough, since she was an accessory after the fact and before the fact and during the fact, and pretty much she was the reason he climbed up the thing. She's like all worried and paranoid and whatnot, so she just sort of helps him bury the body in the back. They chop down the beanstalk, and they've got the goose. And they got the goose, and that's pretty cool. I mean, you know what? Now they've got constant money, a constant flow of cash, nothing to worry about. A little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. And if they look closely, they'll notice, hey, you know what? That beanstalk had some seeds on it. Maybe we've got some magic beans too. Maybe we got some more magic beans. We can do some more magic stuff with them. Maybe they'll just leave well enough alone and not go back to the castle ever. Ever. Probably best to leave it alone. Anyway, there's Jack, living the life that Jack Donkey would ever want to live, and there he is, having a good time, and his mama's having a good time, and they kind of forget about the whole giant thing, and burying him in the backyard, except there's this big pile of dirt nobody ever wants to talk about in the backyard, and nobody worries. And that's pretty much the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, except they got greedy once, and they decide, you know what, I'm not waiting for any more of these little eggs. Why don't we just cut open the goose and get all the gold at once? So, fine. They chop down the goose's neck, because they're into chopping things. And they got it, and hey, do you know what? There's no gold. It's just a goose. Where'd the gold come from? I don't know. Neither does the goose, and neither will they anymore. All they've got is one great, big, tough pile of goose meat. At least they still have the harp. But when times get tough, I'm sure they're going to sell it. Because that's just the kind of people they are. They just don't plan ahead. You know, they just don't. Anyway, that's pretty much the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. So good night. Take care. And remember, don't be a Jack Donkey. You know what? It occurred to me that maybe you want one more story. So, once upon a time, there was a guy. He was really tall, and all his friends teased him and called him Giant. He felt really bad about that. But he lived in a castle on the clouds, so he didn't care too much about what his little friends said back in school. He got a good job, and he was actually a pretty nice guy. He got a harp. When his grandma passed away, he got this magic harp that made music, any music he wanted. He just asked, and it would make any kind of music, like AC/DC Thunderstruck, and he'd like play it on the harp, and he's like, awesome. And he'd sit back and rock out and listen to this thing, man. And that was like, wow, he could remember his grandma, and he could listen to good music, and it was like 3 kinds of excellent. This was how his days were spent when he wasn't doing stuff. One day there was this goose. This goose was well, it was raised by ducks, and it was like uglier than all the other ducks, and so it turns out it was a goose, and he took care of it. I mean, he took this thing in, and it sort of bonded with him. It would follow him around, and it loved him so much that magic happened, and it started laying golden eggs. It was like his best friend. They loved each other. It was a beautiful story. Really was. It was just amazing. It was just like one of those touching little Sunday afternoon TV things, right? Anyway, the giant man whose name has been lost, and it's sad that really nobody remembers what his real name was. They just called him the giant, just because he was taller than all the other kids. Anyway, the giant, he had this thing going on where, you know, people would break into his house and steal stuff. I mean, he wanted to save money to get his mom an operation. So he had this goose that laid the golden eggs because it loved him so much, and he was saving the money for his mom's operation, and people would break in and steal it. And then one day this guy comes in. Can't remember what his name was, but he just broke in and he stole the goose. And the poor giant. I mean, he didn't have any income anymore, and he's all upset. And he's like, "Oh, what am I gonna do? I mean, I've been taking care of this goose, and that was like everything I had. Now I've lost that." So he goes running after and was like, "Please bring my goose back." And this guy's like, "Chop down that beanstalk." And the guy's mom chops down the beanstalk with some kind of a machine there. And the poor giant falls and he's dead. So, that's the story of the giant. Anyway, good night.